Hey Econ Kids, this is Module 50. Module 50 is going to have to be divided into two videos because there's too much in here to just do one. And why? Because the first part talks all about like efficiency and gains from trade. And you really should read that part in your textbook because it talks about how supply and demand works and how that, where the X crosses and that equilibrium point is perfect. And it talks about how perfect means efficient in this case. So as we go through, it really discusses how this gain from trade happens and why somebody who maybe is willing to supply at a certain price is gaining from trading with you, the buyer who wants to buy it at a certain price, and how it gets that equilibrium point to maximize our consumer and producer surplus. And then when we get to that equilibrium, there's nobody else that's going to make any trades because it's perfect. Everybody that wanted to buy it at that price has it. Everybody that wants to sell it at that price can, and nobody has any other need to do anything else. So it's kind of specific. You can definitely get some questions in there that are harder than what that really sounds like. But for the most part, that's how that efficiency of markets part is going to work. Now, with that part of the efficiency with marketing, or with not marketing, with efficiency in the market, you're also going to get, well, what about taxes, right? Well, that's going to mess with our supply and demand graph, which is going to be the next video. But, being efficient doesn't really account for things that maybe society would need. Like it might be more efficient for us to have like the government take care of our roads for us than for you to go create your own road. So when we think about being efficient, there are things that the government can do that probably makes it more efficient for us. But then when we start talking about paying for those things, we start using words like, fair or equitable. And the problem is, what is fair? Is fair mean equal? Does fair mean the people that use it should pay for it? Like, how does fair actually work? So when you look at over here on the side, it talks about progressive, regressive, and proportional taxes. And we're going to discuss those just in brief, but your textbook does a pretty good job of talking about those. And there's definitely questions on the test about those. So you want to make sure you got them down. The very first one is a progressive tax. So a progressive tax for us is like an income tax. So what's going to happen? Here are the tax rates for a single filer for America 2019. And what you can see is in those tax rates, anybody that makes from $0 to $9,525 is going to pay 10% in taxes. And anybody then if you continue on making over $9,526 to $38,700, you pay 12%, then $38,700 to $82,500 pays 22%, and you just keep paying up as you go. Progressive, right? The tax rate gets higher as you do it. Now, what some people fail to understand is how this actually works in real life, because I hear people all the time, they'll be like, oh, I pay 24% in taxes. I pay so much in taxes. And I was like, oh, really? You pay 24% in taxes? Because if you look at that 24% rate there, it's $82,500 to $157,500. Now that's some good money, but to get an average of 24%, means you have to be making way more money than that. Why? Well, because the taxes work like a graduated cylinder, right? So if you think about this as, your science class, and here's the little cylinder, and it's got those little marks on it, right? What you're doing is you're pouring income into that cylinder. And every time you hit a certain point, you're not paying taxes on the bottom portion that you're pouring in. So if you look at this guy up here, this person has taxable income of $50,000, right? The first $9,525, so the portion that you're paying in here, you're only paying 10% on that particular tax, or of that particular money that you have coming in. So everybody, no matter how much you make, you could make $1 million, you could make $10,000, everybody's only paying 10% on the first $9,525. Then, if you pour in more income, you're like, ooh, I'm making up to $50,000, right? So anywhere between that $9,525 and the $38,700, so anywhere in here, this money is getting taxed at 12%. And then anything above that, so the money over $38,700 up to $50,000, that's getting taxed up here at 22%. So when you take that money, that $50,000, and you get some guy who's like, oh, I pay 22% in taxes. I pay so much in taxes. You'd be like, oh, really? That's not true, because you pay 10% on the first 9,000, and then you pay 12% on the next, 20,000. And so basically, once you do that, your total tax bill is only $6,900 of the $50,000. And when you do the math, that's 14%. So you only pay 14% on average, because you have to take all these numbers and you have to do the math and figure out what your tax rate really is. So a tax rate on $50,000 is only 14%. Now, nobody seems to be able to figure that out, right? And the problem with that is then people complain that their taxes are so high, when in reality, everybody gets taxed the same on each amount. And that's the way a progressive tax will work, right? You only get taxed on the income that falls into those categories. And then once you go over that, you get taxed at the next level. So if I made $9,526, I would get taxed 12% on one of those dollars and 10% on the other amount. Okay, so that's how a progressive tax works. Regressive works the opposite. You actually tax the higher percent of income at a less rate. So why do you do that? Well, you do that because if you are a wealthy person, you can leave America, right? Like you could go someplace else. So if the tax rate up here is higher, you might bail. But when the tax rate up here is lower, you're like, maybe I'll stick around. And then of course you reap the benefits as a country of all those wealthy people who are sticking around. And then they might keep their money in America versus just leave and go to another country. The last one is our proportional tax rate. Now, this is an interesting one because this one is like the, if you remember Herman Cain, God bless his soul here, he died from COVID, but he ran for president, and he had a 15% tax rate, like flat tax across the board, right? So who benefits from a flat tax? Well, if we take this cylinder and we go up and we were like, let's say you made a lot of money, like a whole bunch of money, like whoa, way up here, right? If you make all this money, if you remember from your tax rates, the tax rate on anything over $500,000 is like 37% in taxes, right? Like all this money up here, like let's say you made $1 million, you were some professional athlete or something, and anything over, $500,000, you were taxed 37% on that income, okay? Well, if we decided to make a flat tax and we put the tax rate at 15% for everybody, right? Just 15% right here. What happens? Anybody that's in this 10% tax rate, yep, you got a tax increase. Anybody that's in this 12% tax rate, yep, you got a tax increase. But anybody who is in 22 and above, you just got a huge tax decrease. Because now that $500,000 on this guy over here that's making 37% tax on that $500,000, that is all 15% tax. So who loves a 15% flat tax? Wealthy people, because they just got a huge tax cut. And what happened to anybody who's earning under $38,700, like any of those people? They all got a huge tax increase because they were only paying 10% on $9,000. Now they're paying 15%. They were only paying 12% on the next almost $30,000, and now they're paying 15%. So you're taxing the poor people more, and you're giving the wealthy a huge tax deduction. So anytime you see flat tax out there, it's almost always, and then they're going to say, well, it's equal, it's equitable for everybody, right? That's the argument. But in reality, it's a huge tax decrease for the wealthy, and a tax increase for anybody that's poor. And it does seem like it's equitable. It does seem like it's fair to do everything the same. But when you look at it, not everybody is the same, right? So that's why sometimes when things are equal, it's not always fair. As you look at that, what would an economist say? An economist would say, let's live a life of no taxes, right? Because, hey, that's perfect. That makes my supply and demand work out in the best possible way. Is that possible in society? Probably not. So We do have to have taxes because the government can provide services for us probably at a cheaper rate than what we could do ourselves. If you think about something as awesome as the U.S. military, I can't finance a combat littoral ship by myself, right? That's just too expensive. But if we all pitch in a little bit of taxes, we can go buy one of those things and then make sure that we're safe from the bad guys out there. So we do need some taxes. We'll talk about how those work in the next video. Until next time.